Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon at our Careers in Annenberg Alumni Panel. So thank you very, very much. My name is Amy Jo Luna, and I am the Director of Alumni Relations here for Annenberg alums. And our Annenberg alums really incorporate journalism and PR and comm, and we have Trojan Debate Society alumni, and so many of your students will be soon alums one day. So I've invited 4 of our most recent alumni to come and share a little bit about what they're doing and how Annenberg has impacted their careers. And Arash, it looks like, has been delayed a bit, so he'll just join us when he gets here. So just before we get started, I wanted to just sort of ask, how many parents do we have in the room? It's not the time to be shy. Okay, well, welcome to USC and welcome to Annenberg. Are there any parents who are also Trojan alumni? Any? Oh, one back there, all right. Well, welcome back. And students, how many journalism students do we have here? Raise them high, be proud. Comm? PR? Okay. Just sort of gives us a sense for who we're speaking to. I wanted to just point out the Director of Career Development, who's Mr. Tim Burgess in the back. So he and his staff will be advising your students, if they haven't already, on different developmental career-related workshops and seminars, as well as coaching them on getting that first job. So just a couple of stats here just to give some context to our conversation. In 2005, our undergraduate alumni, within the first 6 months of their graduation date, 92% had a job in journalism. So 92% of graduating journalism students were placed in a job within 6 months of graduating. Public relations was 94%, and communication 82%. So those were from a survey that Career Development Services does within that 6 months of graduation. And so that's some good information. Last year, 540 students interned at 298 companies. So internships, I'm sure, as these panelists will tell you, are very, very important. And if your student hasn't already signed up for ASC JobNet, they should. And students, those of you who are here, this is a daily service provided by the Career Development Office. It's a daily listing of jobs and internships and resume tips and career development type of tips. So make sure that you see Tim or one of his staff to get on that list. So I would like to introduce our panelists here who have joined us. I will let them speak a little bit more about themselves, but in general, just very quickly, Allison Grundell, she's class of 2000. She's the Director of Public Relations for the Home Depot Center. And we have Joshua Katz, class of 2004, who works in brand and corporate communication at Quicksilver. And we have Angela Gerald, class of 2003, who is the Assistant Producer of Dateline NBC. So let's welcome our panelists. And Arash Markazi, once he gets here, he writes and reports for Sports Illustrated. So I'm going to just throw out some questions to you all. And if you all have questions, I'm going to open it up in just a moment. So if you guys want to respond to, how did you get the first job? Wherever you want to start.
I went into a program that NBC News has every year called the News Associate. So I had a little bit of a different route. I didn't apply, to jobs. This was a very specific program that I went into. And it was competitive. It was, I think, 2,000 applicants for 6 spots. And I truly believe that going to Annenberg and the experiences that I had here, working downstairs at the news station is what set me apart from those other, 1,900 odd people. So that was my first job. It was with NBC Network News, and it was in New York, working for all their different shows.
Well, I I think it's interesting. My first job was actually evolved out of an internship that I had, and I'd been in school for 3 years, and then I took a year off of school to actually intern full-time, and one of those internships was at DreamWorks Records, and after doing that, someone that I was working for left, and I was the only one that knew how to do it, and so I ended up staying on and become an employee, and that's why I ended up going from a summer to a semester to a full year off of school. And I guess I'd consider that my first real job, and it came all out of an internship that began with actually an alumni of USC Annenberg. So that's kind of my story.
And my first job was at Hill & Knowlton. It is an international global public relations agency. And when I was in college, I interned for H&K and worked really hard. And then when I was getting ready to graduate and wanted a job in the sports industry, I called them up and said, can I apply for this job? And in a matter of a week, I was hired. And I got the phone call when I was at the 9-0, which is a bar across the street, which your kids will go to. And that's how I got my first job. It was because I interned there to begin with.
You all mentioned internships or some type of work that you were doing while you were students that led to that first job. Can you speak a little bit more about any other out-of-class involvements that you were in? You also mentioned ATVN that helped you in your career pursuits or in making you more marketable for getting that first or second job?
Yeah, obviously you get a great education at Annenberg, but other than that, I think that some of the most important experience I got that helped me to get that first job was out-of-class experience. I mentioned Annenberg TV News downstairs for journalism majors, broadcast journalism majors like I was. I think that's just one of the greatest opportunities that students here have. It completely sets you apart from other journalism students when you're going out for that first job, because while you were in school here, you had real life experience with writing and producing news. You put on a live or almost live newscast 4 nights a week here, and it's the same thing that you get in real world experience. So that was a great out of class thing for me. And I also did the Washington semester through USC. I assume that still goes on. So I had the opportunity to intern in Washington, D.C., which really helped when applying for jobs also. That was through the USC American University Partnership. And then I also did ICS, which I'm not sure if that's still going on, but that's I think it stands for International Communication Studies, and a group of us, public relations, comm, and journalism, went all over Europe with Dr. Bill Faith, who I don't think is here anymore, I could be wrong, and did seminars and lectures with newspapers and public relations firms in several cities in Europe. So that also really, really helped.
I think it's interesting because I do think that the breadth of my experience, not just in Annenberg but at USC and outside of Annenberg, has been one of my major assets. In that I hadn't just focused on one thing and did that for 4 years or 5 years, however long I was here. When I was a sophomore, I was on Student Senate. I was like the director of public relations on Student Senate, and I was also extremely involved in academic research for a long time. Up until my junior year, that's what I thought I was going to be doing, and I was in a integrated medias center that mixed communication school and linguistics school and engineering, and through that, and I worked very closely, mostly on the communication side of things, but through that I had exposure to the leaders and the people that are making things happen in engineering schools and the liberal arts sections of the university. So those things, in addition to having countless internships across the board from, finance to music to fashion to all these different things, was really what allowed me not only to understand that what I'm doing now is what I want to be doing and being confident in that, but it's also given me that kind of perspective that enables me, to relate to different people and different levels of people and people that might not, be Mr. Quicksilver, but might be Mr. Engineer or might be Mr. Business Guy. So I think that it was extremely important that I made an effort to go outside of that and outside of just my immediate social group and my academic curriculum.
I would echo what Josh said. It's really important to pair what you do in the classroom with experiences outside of the classroom, and whether that's through leadership activities here at USC. I did a number of outside organizations here at USC, and there are over 300 for you to get involved in. If you think you want to be a cartoon animator, there's a club for that. If you like to surf, there's a club for that. If you like to golf or you want to learn how to golf, there's a club for that. And so I really took advantage of things outside of Annenberg and things that piqued my interest, because that helped me hone in on the fact that I wanted to be in the sports industry after I graduated. I also think that interacting with your peers, not only in your classroom but outside, because I guarantee that you will work with them. They'll either be working with you in your company, or they'll be a client of yours, or a business partner someday. And I would also take advantage of opportunities. I spent a semester in Washington, D.C. as well. Anything that you can do to broaden your horizons and take advantage of everything there is here. I know that this first semester, USC throws everything out in your face. There's so much to get involved in, so don't get overwhelmed, but just keep in mind that there's a huge menu of things to choose from, and try to take advantage as much as you can to help you be a better, more well-rounded person when you graduate.
Let's move a little bit into what you currently do now in your roles and responsibilities. Would you guys just like to briefly explain what a typical day might be like?
I'm an associate producer at Dateline NBC, which, for those of you who don't know, is a primetime news magazine show. And what that means is that, as opposed to journalism students who go into local news where a producer is producing the show, I'm working on specific stories. At any given time, I could be working on just one story that's taking up all my time, or up to, right now I have a pretty full plate. I think it's like 6. And I may be working on that story anywhere from a week. That's really quick for us, getting something on. Like Saturday night, we have a story on about the school shootings. That's been produced in only a week. That's very quick. Some stories I've done take up 9 months to even a year. Those are process pieces where we're doing a story that you need to see the process occur. Like I did one about a boarding school for obese children. So you needed to see their whole school year to see how it went. And what I do is a lot of research. I pitch the stories. Sometimes they're assigned to me. Sometimes I pitch them and then get to work on them. I'm trying to think in order of how the story goes. So researching and pitching, and then going out in the field with the camera crew and shooting, lots of B-roll, just footage of the people, and doing the interviews. Sometimes I actually do the interviews myself. You'll never see me on TV. You'll just see the person being interviewed. But our correspondents are so busy that a lot of times I'm the one asking the questions. Then once we get all our footage, I log it all. I have to type out everything that's on every tape and keep it very organized. Then we go into edit, and I sit in on the edit and, let the editor know where the things he needs are on tape. And I think that's about it. And I help, the producer of the story writes the script normally, and a lot of times I help in that process, fact-checking, maybe the rewriting of the script, that kind of thing. And as an associate producer, I've also gotten to produce one story so far myself.
And look how fast they get promoted. Just a moment ago, she was assistant producer. Now she's associate producer.
This week, actually. So,
congratulations.
Yeah.
Typical day. What types of things you do?
So I'm the director of communications for Quicksilver Brands. But because of the natural namesake, Quicksilver as a company is actually almost a brand management company that manages 18 brands from Quicksilver to Roxy and DC and Cleveland Golf and Rossignol and all those things. And I mean, just since I've been there, they've acquired 9 or 10 of these brands, and so my job has expanded from just being in charge of all the brand communications and media to also being in charge of the global communications program. And so it's a lot of words, but on a day-to-day, my main responsibilities and my primary allegiance is to the Quicksilver brand. And in that, I manage all kind of public relations functions, a lot of the media functions, damage control, messaging, you name it, I do it. I have a team of probably about five people, and then we also use various agencies to assist us. So at any given day, we're working and developing a communication strategy for events, for team riders, for new product launches, to support existing products. So whenever you see a product or the brand or an individual from Quicksilver Brands, be it one of our sponsored riders or something like that, it's coming out of me and my department. And so, there's definitely a breadth of responsibilities, and it varies according to the season and what's going on. Right now, Kelly Slater is going to win his 8th World Championship, and for that, I now overnight have to develop a contingency media plan where we all fly down to Brazil, set up a press conference, create, press B-roll and press releases and all that kind of stuff, distribute satellite feeds around the world, make sure that his messaging's on point, make sure that he's wearing his Quicksilver hat. There's so many things to worry about and to be concerned with. It's definitely one of those things that's really hard to kind of explain a day-to-day. Today, because I've been able to work from home quite a bit while my leg heals, but I'm on.
That wasn't an on-the-job injury, was it?
It's close.
A hazard.
It was during work hours. But I can manage a lot from phone and from email, which is kind of interesting. I'm on the phones all day long, yelling at people, asking people for stuff, negotiating, pitching stuff, telling people that our brand, our products, our team riders are better than any others. And in that capacity, it's almost like a sales gig. But in another capacity, I also manage our entertainment initiatives. So any kind of major production collaborations with networks or with talent or any of those types of things falls under my responsibility. I also do different kinds of brand and corporate alliances. So let's say Quicksilver teams up with Apple computers, that would come out of me, and I would create the fundamental plan for it, the execution plan, develop the financial strategy for it, the whole thing. So there's elements of, it's very heavy in communication, and it's crazy because every day it's not just like, I didn't have a technical communication background or education. I was like liberal arts comm kid, and but it's crazy how much I use that or subconsciously integrate that into everything I'm doing, from developing a strategy to speaking on the phone and being able to align my arguments correctly so that they believe that Quicksilver is better than any other company. So it's a fascinating job. And again, talk about moving up and promotions and things like that. It was like I've been there for 2.5 years now, and it's the kind of place and an atmosphere where it's still very young at heart, and so the whole age thing or experience thing doesn't get in the way as much, and when they see someone that can do a job and someone that excels at it and someone that'll take responsibility and do things that other people won't, they recognize that, and it's been very, very good to me.
I'm the Director of Public Relations for the Home Depot Center, and the Home Depot Center, if you haven't been, is about 15 miles from here. It is a 27,000-seat soccer stadium, 8,000-seat tennis stadium, 2,450-seat indoor velodrome for cycling, and an 8,000-seat track and field facility. And right now, our 27,000-seat soccer stadium is a giant dirt playground for the Jeremy McGrath Supercross Invitational, which is today, in case you're interested in going. At the same time, we have the USA Elite National Track Cycling Championships in our velodrome. If any of you know who Sarah Hammer is, you should. She's a world champion. She's the first U.S. woman to be a world champion in years. And she's competing in our velodrome right now. And next weekend, we have Major League Soccer with the Los Angeles Galaxy and Chivas USA, who will play their final regular season soccer games in our facility. It's a 125-acre multi-sport facility, and it was built on the campus of Cal State Dominguez Hills. And we are owned by the Anschutz Entertainment Group, which is a sports and entertainment company that built and owns and operates Staples Center down the street. And we own the Los Angeles Kings, we own the Los Angeles Galaxy. So it's this giant sports and entertainment conglomerate that I worked at Staples Center a few years ago and decided that I wanted to be at the Home Depot Center full time, and that's where I find myself now. PR is, Josh actually explained it really, really well. What I do most of my time is manage communications between a lot of different audiences. We have a lot of tenants, so I work with our soccer teams, I work with the U.S. Soccer Federation, I work with USA Cycling and the U.S. Tennis Association. Anytime anyone that's a media person comes into our facility, I oversee that. And it could be they're interviewing Jeremy McGrath at 5:30 yesterday morning on the KTLA Morning News, and there's only one person that knows that reporter, knows how to work with her, and that's me in our facility. And I work with journalists like Angela, though we don't do a lot of magazine news shows like Dateline because we don't have breaking, important news, I think. We just have really fun, great news about sports. And it is something that I graduated with a degree in PR, and I actually left the industry for a year because I thought that I wasn't in love with public relations and wasn't in love with sports, and I came back because of a lot of the core values that I learned here at Annenberg, simple things like writing and reading all the time, doing research. Those are things that I find really interesting, and that's what I fill my day with. And like Josh said, I'm on the phone a lot, I write a lot. Please take advantage of your writing classes here because that's very important. And I guess that's about it. That sort of sums it up.
What has been the biggest surprise in the industries that you're working in, good or bad? Hi, Arash. Pardon me.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello.
glad you're here. I had already introduced you, so they
thanks.
all know you. We're all friends.
Hello.
Do you want him to say what he does day to day?
Oh yeah, sure. Why don't you, Arash, if you wouldn't mind, talk a little bit about what you do in your
Okay.
role at Sports Illustrated.
Well, let's see if you can hear me.
Yeah.
It's pretty loud. Okay. Let's see. I write for the magazine. I just moved back from New York to Los Angeles, so I do a lot of stuff for the magazine and the website. So, most specifically, things in Los Angeles, like the Trojans and the Lakers and the Clippers and the Angels. So, yeah, just features and previews and articles and things like that. So, the Dodgers. I'll be going to their game tomorrow, so don't want to forget that. So it's a dream job. I mean, you know, talking to players and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. So.
And is this your first position after graduation?
Yes, it was. I interned there the summer before and just kept in touch with them. And it's really not a job you're supposed to get. Like, you know, you're supposed to go to like a newspaper first and work your way up. But I just kept in touch with them and all the people there and was very lucky. So I moved out to New York, was there for 2 years, and now I'm back here in Los Angeles. So.
And we're glad you are.
Oh, me too.
You're used to that traffic,
Except for the
huh?
traffic. If I was on a subway, I'd be here a little bit sooner, but
The perils of living in LA.
where's
right?
the E-train?
Sorry, Angela. You were...
Worst and best surprise about my job. The best is probably how excited I still get about what I do. I've been doing it for 3.5 or a little over 3 years now, and I'm a complete news junkie. Have been since I was too young to be a news junkie. It was weird, and I still get that rush when there's breaking news, or when there's a deadline that we're barely going to meet, or when my boss says something just happened, this random little town in the middle of the country, and I need to get on the next flight there. It's still, I just get this excited feeling, which is a great thing to get when you're working. I really love my job, and I'm really happy that I went into the field that I did. The worst surprise is probably the pressure, and I personally don't have to deal with this. It's way above my pay grade, but the pressure that, bless you, the pressure that's on all the broadcast shows that are on the networks for ratings, and that translates to advertising money. And working at ATVN while I was here, you get to just decide what the most important news is, and that's what you cover. And you don't have to worry about, what people are going to want to tune in to watch. If you want to do 5 minutes on an obscure problem happening in Africa, or, somewhere in the world that doesn't get covered enough probably, you can do it, because you don't have to worry about ratings and money and all that. And like I said, I don't have to deal with that on a day-to-day basis by any means, but you do realize once you go out into the real world, into the workforce in broadcast journalism, that that's a big pressure. That the networks are owned by big media conglomerates that have shareholders, and it's something that is considered when when you're putting on a show. Are people going to want to watch this?
It's kind of a tough one. I don't know. I mean, if you say surprises, the interesting thing about, I guess, what I do and definitely the path that I've taken is nothing to me has been such a surprise. Everything that I encounter kind of makes sense as, a logical result of everything else before it, I don't know if that's so much me or just what I do or what I've been lucky enough to experience, but everything kind of builds on everything else. And one day this is your sphere of knowledge, and the next day it gets a little bit bigger. And so it's not like I've encountered something that it said, oh wow, I never thought this would be like this. And I think a lot of it's because I never thought I would be in PR or be in media in this capacity. I never thought I'd be dealing with, reporters, journalists, editors, and people like this on a day-to-day basis. And so I guess you could say that either everything's a surprise or nothing's a surprise. And but I've been sitting here trying to think of a real bad thing about my job and the type of stuff that I do.
What's the downside?
Is
there a downside?
I'm sure there's got to be. Maybe I'm very much an optimist. I mean, that's part of what probably makes me good at my job, is that I'm just naturally trained to look at the good things and not talk about the bad things. But it also it's transformative in that that's kind of just how I feel. There's little things like I think that over time I've become a little bit jaded on and I don't want to hurt this side of the table, but I've become a little bit jaded on the ability or the capacity of the media to really reveal certain things that might not sell. On a day-to-day basis, I have stories and I have people that I deal with and certain really interesting things that are far more fascinating than the name brand, than the big person with the face or the person that everybody reads about in every other publication or sees everywhere on TV. But because media is inherently a business, and most media has to operate, according to a P&L at the end of the day, and it's frustrating that, it can't just be, this is interesting. People would find this interesting. They just don't know about it. And that's one thing that, and I don't know, that's me really scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to find something that, I think, yeah.
All right. It doesn't have to be, a really bad
Well,
thing.
I was trying for you.
The best thing about my job are the people that I get to work with. The vibe of the sports industry is very energetic, optimistic, young vibrant atmosphere, and the people that I work with are amazing people. The reporters I get to work with, I have really close relationships with those people. There's definitely a reason why I returned to the industry, and that is because those relationships that I have make my day happy. And it's really important to work with people you like. So whether it's in the communications industries or not, make sure you surround yourself with people that make your days good. And the worst thing about my job and the industry, which Arash would probably know way more than I, because he stays up later than I do writing stories, is that it's a tough industry. It's really long hours, and when you start out, it's not a whole lot of money. And that's the reality. And that's probably the reality for any job if you want to get somewhere, is you have to work really hard. No one got anywhere just working 9 to 5, or at least if they did, I don't know them. So that's hard. The sports industry is really hard, and it's really competitive. Everyone wants to be in it. Like Arash said, his path, there has been some really good fortune for people like us, because you just don't get these kinds of jobs. So be really sure that you want to be in this industry, because it's a lot of work, and it's not just going downtown and working in an accounting firm. No offense to any accountants in the room. It's not in the office and home. I'm constantly having ulcers over something that could happen at work, because in PR and in the news, anything can happen. And so it's always on my mind. That's probably not healthy. But that's how it is. Más o menos. I took 7 years of Spanish. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Chivas USA and the Galaxy both have full-time employees that are my counterparts that speak Spanish. And I can get along great. And a lot of the reporters that are here that come to the facility, I have great relationships with, and they bear with me. So
I'd actually like to add to that, because she reminded me. That's definitely the idea of your job being all-encompassing. And I don't know if it differs from industry to industry, or if it's just a matter of me, but my job does become my life. And it's partially because the nature of what I do is that there's never a minute where I'm not at a party, or I'm not at a concert, or if I'm not, just out wherever I am, that I'm not an ambassador of the company and the brand that I work for. And in that, it becomes, it's not that I obsess over it, but it's, when I'm driving in the car, I'm not thinking about, anything. When I drive home from work, I'm thinking about work, and when I drive to work, I'm thinking about work, and I have to try very hard not to come home and just talk to my girlfriend only about work. And she also, there's always issues with that when you're in a job like that, where it's hours and you've got a significant other, and also part of your job is traveling around the world and going to, doing stuff that I do. It's not always that easy with my girlfriend, and that's probably, it'd be a lot easier if I was just going in an office and staring at a computer all day and then coming home.
Brings up a good point about work-life balance, especially as recent graduates. I'm sure the adjustment of just working a full-time gig was probably something that took some adjustment. What do you do to attempt to achieve work-life balance when you're crawling your way up and you're working the long hours and you're thinking about it, morning, noon, and night? Are there things that you might recommend that students think about?
Live at the beach, if you can. Yeah. That helps.
But if you're not getting paid a lot.
Right. Then you live in an apartment that's this big. But it's okay. It's at the beach.
I think you have to learn to say no sometimes. And I think there comes, when it was my first year in New York working for NBC, I worked Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, every single holiday. I did not get a day off. I'd get called at 5 a.m. on a Sunday, and because it was my first year, I was never going to say no. Now that it's my third year, if I have a vacation planned or something and there's breaking news, I might say, no, I'm sorry, I can't. And you get that ability, I think, as you get a little further out. So,
although you don't have to wait 25 years to begin
no,
to say no.
I'm only 3 years out, and I have a relationship with my superiors now where I do get some holidays off and some. I think it's important to strike the balance where you realize it's okay to say no sometimes. Anyone else have any thoughts?
That's a great answer.
I never say no, and that's my biggest problem. But I think it's what's like really helped me, because they know if they call me up, I kind of say yes, even if I have something else to do.
I usually say yes.
But that's just in life. Like if someone's like, "Hey, I'm flying in. Can you pick me up from the airport?" I say yes. I'm like, "Why? I live in Sherman Oaks."
Pushover.
Yeah, I'm a pushover. I will say whatever you say, as long as I don't get hurt. I'll probably say yes.
So how do you manage the stress? I'm sure that it's a stressful, deadline-driven.
Like tomorrow, I'm covering the football game, and then I'm driving to the playoff game. But what I always remember is like, all right, let's think about like the job that I have, and like whenever like I want to complain, I never want to be like the reporter, like, oh, I gotta go to the Super Bowl this year. And there are reporters who do that,
Yes.
because there's so much media there, and it's a big, so the reporters complain. I was like, wow, I would never want to get to the point in my career where I complain. Oh shoot, I gotta go to South Beach this year and cover the Super Bowl. So I don't want to be that guy. So I always say yes, and I really like appreciate like this is like my job, and I still think like I'm tricking Sports Illustrated, and I don't want to get caught. Like, all right, just be quiet, do your job, don't rock the boat. Just let's see how long this thing lasts before like someone wakes me up and I'm in like second grade, and it's like, sorry, you're not going to be on the Lakers because you're 5'3". So I'm living a good life. I don't want to mess it up. So I don't know.
Good. I want to open it up to the audience for some questions. And Josh will come around with a mic for you.
I was wondering,
Not on.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
I was wondering about your roots, and did all of you start in Annenberg, or I think you said you were a liberal arts company. I'd like to know whether you knew what you were going to do when you came into school, or whether you found communications when you got here.
I'm from here originally. I originally went to the Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State. Just because like I needed to leave home at the time, I just wanted to go somewhere else. And
You're from Los Angeles.
from Los Angeles, from Sherman Oaks, and so I went there, and it's a really good school, but it just wasn't me. I was there for 2 years, and I didn't like the classes were huge, and it wasn't really for me. But then I came here, and what I really appreciated about it was like the teachers. Like there's that old saying, like those that can't teach. And I'm not just saying it because we're here, and I'll just say it regardless. Like it's like those who really excel at the professions, like teacher, like like Norman Corwin and Ed Guthman, like Pulitzer Prize winners, and I'm calling them up saying, having a hard time with my lead, and like the guy I'm calling has won like an Academy Award or a Pulitzer Prize, and so so that's my background. And then I came here, and then I was like, wow, okay, so this is really what I want to do. So that's my whole story.
So you knew.
I knew early on I wanted to play sports, but there really comes a point in your life when you're like, okay, I'm not going to grow. So let me write about sports. So like I play sports, in the
And you don't have to have the injuries. So
Yeah, so this is as close as I'm going to get, traveling and
What would you do with all that money anyway,
Really, that's too much. I wouldn't want all that money.
I, like I said, was obsessed with the news from literally 8 years old, like watching the presidential conventions. Just got a little bizarre now that I'm older and think back that I was that, if I saw someone that young doing that. But, so that was it. I knew. However, I did not know that I was going to, I applied to a lot of different schools, and I didn't know where I was going to go. I wasn't specifically, when I was applying to schools, USC wasn't my be-all and end-all. It wasn't until I came here and saw Annenberg and saw the program that they had, and I came to USC for Annenberg, so.
I think I guess I'm an interesting case in that, or special case, in that I came here on the resident honors program, which is for it's like kids that are younger and come here instead of their senior year of high school and kind of finish up high school while going to school here. And so when I got here, I had quite a heavy course load because I was also kind of peripherally trying to finish high school and I was in thematic option, and thought I was going to be, I was like, oh, computers or electrical engineering, it sounds serious and college-like or whatever. And I was also doing academic research at that time. That's kind of more why I ended up in the computer science stuff, because I was doing this academic research. They let me come here for that. Long story short, I realized that the only part of the whole research thing and whatever I was doing was the more theoretical, conceptual side of what I was doing. I was doing stuff with speech recognition and stuff like that, and I realized that I didn't like sitting in front of a computer. I liked talking to the people and figuring out what the larger social and cultural implications were of everything, and it kind of just evolved in that I kind of realized that I like to. One day I decided that I'm not going to go to college for technical training. I decided that I didn't want to sit and try and learn a trade. If I wanted to learn a trade, I'd go to a trade school, or I'd be in electrical engineering. And I wanted to do things that made me and taught me how to think and introduced me to an array of ideas and different ways of thinking. And I really found, looking at the comm curriculum, I was like, well, you get to do this and this and this, but you also get an understanding of media and things that affect you on a day-to-day basis. And so that really attracted me, that I was able to balance something that I could apply on a day-to-day basis, but learn it in a manner that was kind of higher level and was challenging and wasn't so straightforward. So I guess one day I just ended up in comm school and
That's the system.
yeah.
I didn't come to USC for any one discipline. I just came here because we had a lot of sports teams and I liked cheering for sports, honestly. And so when I got here, I started off as a business major because I didn't know why else you go to college but business. And I didn't like any of my classes. I just wasn't interested. And I had friends around me that were in Annenberg and just said, you should go downstairs, when we used to have advising downstairs, and meet with an advisor. And when you, like Arash, when you have, your professors are Pulitzer Prize winners and just amazing people, your mind here is just exercised to the nth degree. And I can't say enough good things because I've seen a lot of other schools, and Annenberg's just, it's great. And if the shoe fits and if this is the kind of learning that you want to do, it's the best place in the nation to do it.
Question back here?
How pervasive, if at all, is the competition? I'm sure every day you think about you have to produce, or something can happen to you, you may get canned or demoted or something. Then the other side, are your jobs ever that good that somebody's coming after you, or your employer might have to be concerned? Second part of this, my daughter goes here, senior in corporate communications. We come from a family of radio, TV, media people. My father's a sports writer, and she says, I have nothing to do with TV, radio, or journalism, or newspapers. That's not my thing. She says corporate communications. How can that kind of a thing, are there careers in that, outside of being an intern for politicians for no money that she's done for 2 years? So you can answer any of those.
Those are a bunch of questions. Who wants to take?
As far as competition, I would say that at my level at least, the competition for my job is a lot greater than the competition for me. Like Arash was saying, when you get down on your job sometimes, you have to remember there are, hundreds of people lined up waiting, that journalism, students from across the country who would love to have my job. So it's competitive in that sense, and that's something that's in the back of your mind when you're thinking about saying yes or no to things. I'm not at the level where, anyone's knocking on my door, coming after me, trying to, get me to go with them. That happens more, I think, when you make in TV more of a name for yourself at the producer level.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak about the corporate communication part of that?
Absolutely. I don't know if we're talking about the same kind of corporate communications, but it's actually been one of the most rewarding things that I've been doing in the last year and a half, probably. So Quicksilver is a public company. It's about a $2.8 billion company, and its corporate infrastructure and agenda is extremely complex. in that until 5 years ago, it was various different various different companies in different regions that all became were all bought up by Quicksilver Inc. And now we're this big global company with different regions, with different management infrastructures in the different regions, and also a very complex agenda. In that, on one sense, we've got all these brands and the brand communication side of things where we're doing things to a very specific audience, and we need to maintain a certain aura of authenticity, and it's about team riders and events and parties and having fun and selling aspects of the youth culture. On the other side of things, the brands are all part of this money-making machine. I mean, not to, and this is probably the worst PR I could be doing, but it's business. And you go to work every day because you need to make money, and the people above you go to work every day because they're trying to make more money. And when you're a public company, you're indebted to your shareholders. No secrets there. But it's been surprising how a company that large has never really had a really cohesive global corporate communication structure or platform. And it's partially because we were all a bunch of little brands that have all come together under a big umbrella, and all of a sudden they're kind of realizing, well, we should get our act together, and what I'm saying here should be the same thing we're saying in Australia and China, Japan, France, Egypt, wherever. And by accident or because I always say yes, it's gotten to, I was the one that was saying, hey, hey Quicksilver, Australia, hey DC, China, we should get together so that we are saying the same things, and so that our shareholders understand that we are really the class act that we say we are, and that we perform as. It's been really interesting, and because no one had ever stepped up and said that, and said, hey, we got, and my executives, from the CEO to the president to my, chief legal counsel, all realized that, that we'd been missing something considerable there, and were very willing to listen to what I had to say. And eventually it was just a series of proposals and conversations, and really proactively trying to unite all the people that did what I did all around the world. And it also helps that our company's on the New York Stock Exchange, and so most of our corporate communications and our financial communications are very inextricably linked. It ended up just being me that was calling the shots, and me that was interacting directly with my CEO and my president, and handling all their individual personal PR, hiring and managing our financial communications agency, developing real kind of international cohesive global messages, all those types of things. So the long story is that, or the short story of the long story is that I never thought I'd be doing these kinds of global corporate communications things, and I don't think anybody around me ever thought I would. But there is a need, and we do have a training, we do have a talent, and there's some things that I'm very well trained in that no matter how experienced they are, doesn't have. And I have that perspective, and I'm able to look at a situation and look at a company and say, we need to be doing this. And I've been lucky that they've listened. So, yeah.
I was just going to add something for your daughter, that there are several agencies that have a corporate communications practice within their public relations agency, and an agency is a really good place for someone who's starting their career, maybe in PR, to get a taste of different clients and different practices, everything from corporate to healthcare to sports to anything you want. So a good outlet for her might be to explore some agencies that have a client list that look interesting to her, because chances are they'll need a corporate communications specialist if that's something she's interested in doing.
That's the better answer.
I worked at an agency, so I'm very pro agencies. I think they're great.
Right here? Question here?
I wanted to know, after you guys are out and about and looking for a job, what do you think the best place, like when you guys started, did you guys were between jobs, like if there was a job that you guys really wanted and there were two of them, how did you guys know?
I think the biggest thing is you have to kind of hopefully know what you want to do early on, so you could plan to have a job, because I have a lot of talented friends who graduated but they never tried to get a job before, so I think when you're a freshman see if you can get a job during the summer at some paper, for me, for like a paper at a magazine, and then freshman and then sophomore year, can I do the same thing? So by the time that you've graduated, you have, again, for me, this is my example, you have clips and you have contacts, and so you know what you want to do. So hopefully by your senior year, you'll say, well, I've worked, here the past 2 summers, and I got these kind of clips, so I'm in okay shape. So yeah, hopefully by the time you're a senior, you will have done some things, to kind of set yourself up for that.
Yeah, internships. I think that's how I knew where I didn't want to work.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's almost more important is finding out what you don't want to do.
Absolutely.
Is there a question back here?
I was wondering if I plan on getting my master's, and does having a master's in your fields make it easier to get a job, or does it set you above that competition level? Do any of you have your master's? You plan on getting your master's? Like, how does that work in this field?
I thought about it. Time Inc. has this program where they'll pay for half or whole, or they'll pay for something if you wanted to get it. And we have the Trojan family here, and at SI, and even Time Inc. There's like the Columbia Mafia, whereas everyone went to the Columbia Graduate School of Journalism. I just never wanted to, just because I felt like I really not learn as much as I can learn, but like at this point, I'm gonna learn more just being out there. So if you have a chance to get like a job that you really like, then totally take it. But if you want, for me, I don't think it helps. For me personally, but I mean that's really like a personal decision. I think, I don't know.
I'm not sure what you're getting your master's in, but for broadcasting, I think it depends a lot on what you got your undergraduate degree in. If you did liberal arts, or a lot of people will do like a poli-sci or a history or something, then yes, I think it's really great to get your master's in journalism to get that sort of training of the writing. But since I did my undergrad in journalism, I don't feel the need to get a master's. I want to actually probably get a master's, but in something.
Yeah.
I want to do the history or as my master's. So yeah, I think it just depends. If you didn't do journalism as an undergrad, I think it's really helpful. And I would say, as far as the people I work with at NBC News, there are probably more that have their master's than don't. I would say the program I was talking about that I did straight out of USC, the NBC News Associates, there were 6 of us, 5 had their master's. I'm the only one who didn't, so that's a good, it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
Question back here?
Is it working? 2 of you mentioned that you did this Washington semester. Did anybody do the abroad? Any of you do the Annenberg Abroad program? And what are your thoughts about that and how that might help or not help?
I wish I did.
I talked to people who did, and they loved it. I wish I did.
I did Washington instead of the abroad programs. I have friends who did London and absolutely loved it. I did the summer program I was talking about, ICS, which was a great program and a good sort of replacement for the semester abroad. But biggest regret, the cost.
Yeah.
One more question here. Okay, maybe 2 more.
During the interviewing process, when you were interviewing for jobs, what did you find to be the greatest challenge, just in terms of like really landing it? And what kinds of tips do you have for people who are about to go through it?
Interviewing tips and challenges.
My greatest challenge was staying calm. My interview was about 15 people on me, just me.
Wow.
So literally it was like deep breathing and just getting my words out. I don't know if that's helpful. I think that just staying calm and being yourself and getting your words out in a cohesive manner for me was the most important thing.
I didn't have an interview.
You were an intern. So
so they kind of knew about me before. But I think if they did, I wouldn't have gotten this job because I'm like the worst interview person ever. I remember I got flown out to Boston for an internship with the Globe, and I sat down with the guy, and he flew me out to, I think I tried so hard to impress him. I was, I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't get that internship.
You didn't go to the career development workshops, did you?
I did. Well, yeah, you should be yourself. I was trying to be myself, but I don't think he liked myself.
You were trying to be a different yourself.
No, but yeah, be yourself.
Any tips or insights on the interview process? Are any of you, do any of you interview others and sort of kind of know?
That's kind of what I'm trying to think about. Like when I'm interviewing people, what are like the ones that make me, turn them off as soon as, they say something? I think it's really important that, and this is in an ideal world, but it's important that you're interviewing for a job that you really want, or that you've trained for, or not, if you haven't trained for it, that you have a reason for having that job. Because one of the things that I look for when I'm hiring somebody is like, is this person here because he just needs a job, or he or she needs a job? Are they here because they think it sounds cool? Are they here because this is like the fit for them? They saw this, we saw them, and there's that match. And I guess that's very optimistic in that there's always going to be a match. But at least there can be people that are good fits and come in. And because if you are a good fit and if you are prepared, you're going to be comfortable, and you're not going to have to stretch the truth or talk yourself up, because your experience and your materials and whatever accomplishments should and can speak for themselves.
Yeah. Do your research.
Excuse me.
I just say do your research.
That's a really good one.
Quicksilver is a public company. Holy heck, you can find so much information on them.
Yeah.
I mean, go on Google the interviewer's name, see what stories they've written, see, what they're all about. Do your research, and so that when you get asked the question, what is it about our company that makes you interested in taking this position? You know exactly how to answer that question. Because it's not a good enough answer that Quicksilver is a really cool company.
Or that I grew up around
right.
it, or I had
like
board shorts or something like that.
Yeah.
But I swear to God, I've interviewed 300 people this year, and 90% of them, just don't. It's not that it's not that this job is perfect. It's like I think I understand it so much, and it's not about understanding the brand as much as it is understanding why you'd be a fit for it. And to understand why you'd be a fit for it, you have to know something about yourself and also where you're trying to fit into. So,
one more question. Did you have a question?
There's actually two questions. I wanted to ask the panelists who had worked in New York or are working in New York, did you find that you had any selling job that you had to do because you've gone to college out here? New Yorkers can be very provincial, so that's my first question. Second question is, it's very hard to be a parent watching a young man or a young woman who's just graduated looking for a job. Do you have any advice for the parents? Do they stay out of this? Do they help? What would be helpful?
I was in New York. I went straight to New York after I graduated, and you're completely right that there's the whole East Coast, West Coast thing with the schools, and I worked with people who had no idea how great USC was, or how difficult it is to get into, the caliber of our professors, and so you do have to do a little bit of selling. But I would say that with Annenberg specifically, that's not true in the broadcast journalism field, for me at least. There can be that sort of elitist Northeast, Ivy League school thing going on, but most people in the broadcast journalism field that I know of Annenberg, know how great Annenberg is, and that's because the people who've come out of here who have worked at NBC, have done a wonderful job, and that helps just continue the reputation. There's several people at my show alone who came from Annenberg and came before me, and so Annenberg, I think, has a very good name for itself. And as a parent with the job search, I would say offer support, but don't impose it.
We did want to leave a little bit of time. We have some refreshments in the back. If you didn't get your questions answered or you wanted to have more of a one-on-one conversation with these folks, they've agreed to stay on it for a few more minutes. So thank you all. Have a great time the rest of the weekend, and thanks for coming to Annenberg.